Every year, tractors kill more people than sharks, lightning strikes, and venomous snakes combined. These incredible machines, symbols of agricultural progress and rural life, are still responsible for hundreds of deaths annually in the United States alone. But most people living in cities have no idea just how deadly these vehicles can be. This is the story of a machine both extraordinary and perilous, one that remains vital today, despite decades of efforts to make it safer. Let's start with the numbers because they're quite shocking. In the United States, tractors account for approximately half of all agricultural fatalities. That's roughly 130 deaths every single year. But here's what makes this even more alarming. This represents just a fraction of the total injuries. For every death, there are an estimated 20 serious injuries that require hospitalization. Since 1992, more than 3,600 people have died in tractor-related incidents in the United States alone. That's more than one death every 3 days for over 3 decades, and these aren't just operators. Children are disproportionately represented in these statistics. Between 2003 and 2010, over 1,200 children were killed in agricultural incidents, with tractors being the leading cause. Many of these children were bystanders, passengers, or young operators learning the family trade. Globally, the numbers are even more difficult to comprehend. While comprehensive international data is harder to obtain, agricultural machinery deaths in developed nations follow similar patterns. In the United Kingdom, tractors are consistently among the leading causes of workplace fatalities. In Australia, agriculture remains one of the most dangerous industries, with tractors playing a central role in accident statistics. But to understand why tractors are so deadly, we need to go back in time. The introduction of tractors revolutionized farming in the early 20th century. What once required teams of horses and days of labor could now be accomplished in hours. But just like many other industrial revolutions in the past, this efficiency came at a terrible cost. Early tractors were designed with virtually no safety features. A different world than today, with no seat belts, no rollover protection, and often no proper brakes. The machines were heavy, powerful, and completely unforgiving of operator error. One wrong move, one tiny lack of attention, and the worst could happen. The 1950s and 1960s were particularly deadly decades. Post-war agricultural expansion meant more tractors on more farms, operated by more people, many with minimal training. The designs of the era prioritized function over safety. Tractors had high centers of gravity, narrow wheelbases, and enormous power relative to their weight. One brand became synonymous with danger: Ford. The Ford 8N, introduced in 1947, became one of the best-selling tractors in American history. Over 500,000 units were produced by 1952. Its predecessor, the 9N, was nearly as popular. These tractors were affordable, reliable, and perfect for small to medium-sized farms. They were also death traps. The Ford N-Series tractors had a fatal design flaw that became known among farmers and safety experts alike. These machines were particularly prone to backwards rollovers, a phenomenon that could happen in seconds and kill just as quickly. Here's what made them so dangerous. The Ford 8N and 9N featured a Ferguson 3-point hitch system, which was revolutionary for implement attachment. But when pulling heavy loads or working on inclines, if the implement hit an obstruction or the wheels lost traction, the tractor could rear up backwards like a bucking horse. The operator, with no rollover protection structure and nothing to prevent the machine from continuing its deadly arc, would be crushed beneath over 2,000 pounds of steel. The problem was compounded by the tractor's design. It had no roll bar, no protective cab, and the seat was positioned in such a way that operators were thrown directly into the path of the flipping machine. One moment you're working a field, the next you're under a tractor with no chance of survival. Purdue University researchers have documented numerous cases involving these specific models. Agricultural engineers identified the backwards flip problem as early as the 1950s, but hundreds of thousands of these tractors remained in operation for decades. Many still operate today on small farms and hobby properties. The Ford N-Series wasn't alone in its dangers, but its popularity made it statistically one of the most lethal tractors ever produced. Even now, safety experts warn specifically about these vintage models. Tractor rollovers account for more than half of all tractor-related fatalities. Understanding why this happens requires understanding the physics of these machines. Tractors are designed to pull heavy loads and work on uneven terrain. This requires substantial weight and power. But the design also creates inherent instability. The center of gravity is high, often higher than the axles themselves. The wheelbase is relatively narrow to allow movement between crop rows. Power is delivered to the rear wheels, creating enormous rotational force. Combine these factors with real-world farming conditions, and you have a recipe for disaster. Backwards rollovers occur when the implement being pulled encounters resistance, when going uphill with a load, or when the front end lifts for any reason. The tractor's momentum and weight distribution cause it to flip over backwards in less than a second. There is no time to react, no time to jump clear. The operator is simply crushed. Sideways rollovers are equally deadly and more common. They happen on slopes, when turning too sharply with a front-end loader, when one wheel drops into a depression, or when operating on uneven ground. A tractor can flip sideways at angles as low as 15 degrees on certain surfaces. Most tractors can reach full rollover in approximately 3/4 of a second. The human reaction time is about 1.5 seconds. You literally cannot react fast enough to save yourself. What makes rollovers particularly tragic is that many are survivable with proper protection, but that protection was absent from tractors for most of their history. It's important to understand that tractors are just one hazard in a profession filled with them. Farming consistently ranks as one of the most dangerous occupations in the world. In the United States, agriculture has a fatality rate approximately 7 times higher than the national average for all industries. This includes crop production and livestock operations. The fatality rate in agriculture is approximately 20 deaths per 100,000 workers, compared to about 3 per 100,000 for all occupations. Farmers face a unique combination of hazards: heavy machinery, chemical exposures, confined spaces, livestock, extreme weather, repetitive strain, and often working alone in remote locations. There are no shift changes, no safety managers on site, and economic pressures often force farmers to take risks they know are dangerous. Tractors represent the single largest source of fatalities in this already dangerous profession. But farmers also die from equipment entanglements, being struck by machinery, falls, livestock attacks, grain bin suffocations, and exposure to toxic gases in manure pits. The independence and isolation that many people romanticize about farming also means that when accidents happen, help is often far away. A tractor rollover that might be survivable with immediate medical attention becomes fatal when the operator is alone in a remote field. And there's another factor: age. Many farmers continue working well into their 70s and 80s. Physical limitations, slower reaction times, and decades-old equipment create additional risks. Similarly, farming remains one of the few industries where children routinely work alongside adults, often operating equipment that would be illegal in any other context. The single most important safety innovation in tractor history is the rollover protective structure. The system is essentially a reinforced frame, usually a roll bar or cab, designed to create a protective zone for the operator during a rollover. Combined with a seatbelt to keep the operator within that protective zone, the rollover structure reduces the risk of death in a rollover by 99%. You heard that right, 99%. The technology has been understood since the 1960s. Sweden began requiring the system on tractors in 1959. Other European countries followed throughout the 1960s and 1970s. The United States, however, was slower to act. Rollover protective structure became standard on new tractors in America in 1985. But here's the problem. Tractors last for decades. A well-maintained tractor from the 1950s can still operate today. There are an estimated 4 million tractors in the United States, and approximately half of them lack this type of protection. These older machines continue to kill people every year. Retrofit programs have attempted to address this. Some states and organizations offer financial assistance to farmers to install rollover protective structure on older tractors. But uptake has been limited due to cost, the challenge of finding appropriate structures for vintage models, and cultural resistance among some farmers who view the modifications as unnecessary. But the evidence is clear: rollover protective structure work. Studies have consistently shown that fatality rates drop dramatically in regions and time periods after the system implementation. Yet tens of thousands of unprotected tractors remain in daily use. Today's new tractors are vastly safer than their predecessors, though risks remain. Modern tractors come equipped with protective structure as standard, along with seatbelts designed to work with the protective structure. Many feature fully enclosed cabs with heating and air conditioning, which also provide protection from rollovers, falling objects, and weather. Engine designs have improved. Modern tractors have better weight distribution and lower centers of gravity. Wider wheelbases improve stability. Four-wheel drive systems provide better traction and control. Braking systems are far superior. Many modern tractors feature independent brake pedals for each rear wheel, allowing for tight turning, but also include a mechanism to lock them together for straight-line braking. This prevents the accidental single-wheel braking that could cause a tip on older models. Electronic systems now monitor multiple safety parameters. Some tractors include slope sensors that warn operators when approaching dangerous angles. Automatic shut-off systems can prevent certain operations when the tractor is in an unsafe configuration. Lighting has improved dramatically. Modern light packages allow for safer operation during dawn, dusk, and darkness, periods when visibility-related accidents were once common. Training and certification programs have expanded. While not universal, many agricultural organizations now offer comprehensive tractor safety courses, particularly aimed at young operators. Some insurance companies incentivize safety training with reduced premiums. Manufacturers now design with ergonomics and operator fatigue in mind. Comfortable seating, reduced vibration, better visibility, and intuitive controls all contribute to operators making fewer mistakes over long working hours. Despite improvements, tractors remain extremely dangerous machines. Power takeoff, or PTO, accidents continue to cause horrific injuries and deaths. The PTO is a rotating shaft that transfers engine power to implements. It spins at approximately 540 or 1,000 revolutions per minute. Clothing, hair, or body parts that contact an engaged PTO can be pulled in and wrapped around the shaft in a fraction of a second. These accidents often result in amputations or death. Protective shields help, but only if they're installed and maintained, which many farmers neglect. Highway travel remains hazardous. Modern tractors can travel at 25 to 40 miles per hour, but they share roads with vehicles traveling much faster. Rear-end collisions between cars and tractors cause multiple deaths annually. Slow-moving vehicle emblems, lights, and reflective tape help, but motorists in rural areas still plow into the back of tractors with alarming regularity, often while distracted or impaired. Runovers account for numerous fatalities, particularly of children. A child playing near a tractor can be invisible to an operator with limited visibility. Backing accidents kill children every year on farms across the country. Many tractors lack rear-view cameras or proximity sensors that are standard on passenger vehicles. Even with rollover systems installed, operators must wear seatbelts for the protection to work. Many farmers still resist wearing seatbelts, either from habit, discomfort, or a misguided belief that they're better off being thrown clear in an accident. This is wrong. Without a seatbelt, a rollover structure can actually increase injury risk as operators are thrown against the structure during a rollover. Tractors have transformed agriculture and fed billions of people. They've made farming more efficient, more productive, and in many ways, easier than at any point in human history. But this progress, as with many others, has been written in blood. Thousands have died operating these beautiful machines. Farming remains one of the most dangerous occupations in the world, and tractors remain farming's deadliest tool. For every technological improvement, for every safety standard adopted, there are still millions of dangerous machines in operation, still thousands of operators working without adequate protection, and still families who will lose loved ones to preventable accidents. The next time you see a tractor, whether on the road or in a field, remember, you're looking at a machine that kills more than 130 people every year in the United States alone. Respect its power, understand its dangers, and recognize that the peaceful rural landscape it represents is, for those who work it, one of the most hazardous environments in modern America.